Seeing magic, the gathering deck. 3 times the channel already. I can't do this anymore. Colossus never has control of my soul. Send help. Send help. Send help. Send help. I created the set.
Hey, what's up guys, Courier6 here with the Kaladesh Express, your #1 source for Universes Beyond, and today we're going to be looking at a commander deck, and more specifically an equipment deck. And yes, as you saw in the intro, this is like the 3rd time I'm covering this kind of deck. I don't know what it is, I just really like Colossus Hammer. I always have, I kind of always will. Whenever I get a chance to build a deck around it, I like to do that. And fun fact, this will not be the last time anytime soon you'll be seeing an equipment deck from this channel. I have a collab coming up with another YouTuber, which is heavily focused on equipment. It's weird, I was already planning this video before I started working on the video with this YouTuber that I plan to collab with, so I'm sorry you're getting back-to-back equipment, but I think both decks have their own unique values and properties that'll make them both unique and fun to play. But without wasting any more time, because I know my intro is long, I know I talk a lot, let's look at the deck. We'll start with Arden because he shows up on the list first alphabetically. Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist, is a 2 and a white for a legendary creature, Core Scout, 2/2, and he says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of ores and equipment you control to target permanent or player. He also has Partner, which allows us to play our second commander. Roga, Son of Roga, is a really interesting creature. It has a mana cost of 0, so you can play it on turn 1 if you want to. Sometimes that's relevant. But let's read the card. It's a legendary creature, Cobalt Warrior, with First Strike, Menace, and Trample, and Partner. It's also a 0/1, so it has no attack power. So we're looking at these two commanders, it's pretty obvious what you want to do with them. You want to suit up Roga with as much equipment as you possibly can, as soon as you possibly can, and get him smacking for damage, commander damage, just want to end the game quick. We've got several different categories to get through to help us make that a little easier, and let's start with the equipment category. I think that's what most people want to see in an equipment deck. So our first piece of equipment is going to be Basilisk Caller. This is a classic piece of equipment. It gives a creature Death Touch and Lifelink. It equips for 2, but we're not normally going to be paying the equip cost in this deck, thanks to our secondary commander. Then we've got Chainsaw. It's a new equipment from Dustmourne that I really dig. It adds a lot of flavor to your commander game. It's not the best piece of equipment, but it did actually do quite a bit of work for me over my games at DreamHack, where I got to test this deck quite a bit. So it lightning strikes a creature and enters the battlefield, which is really cool. And then whenever creatures die, you get to put counters on it, and then whatever creature's equipped to it gets buffed for each counter on it. It's a really cool card. Champion's Helm, absolute classic card. You need it for equipment decks. You want to protect your commander. Calendar Complete is one of the first cards we're going to look at that is in here from my modern deck. So you might have seen my modern deck on the channel before. It's a very bog standard, or used to be very bog standard, mono white hammer. And I have since taken it apart for the time being. I'm keeping all the cards, so I can put it back together. But I wanted to use a bunch of those parts. I had, what, 4 Urza Sagas in there, 4 Sigarda's Age. You know, I want to use those cards in other decks, and I wasn't playing a lot of Modern, so Calendar Complete made its way into the deck. I think this card is fantastic. It feels more like a Commander card than a Modern card, but obviously does a lot of work in Modern. It itself being a creature for all intents and purposes is great, so you can just play it out and it does a thing, but also throwing this onto Rogra makes him an absolute threat immediately. Standout card. Then we got Lion Sash. This is another card that was in the sideboard of my modern deck. A lot of people look at me weird for Lion Sash, but that incidental graveyard hate just does the work. Also, it's a creature and an equipment. It fills 2 roles. It's a really good card in the deck. Masterwork of Ingenuity. It's a duplicate of our Sword of Feast and Famine. It's a duplicate of our Colossus Hammer. It's a duplicate of anything we need it to be. Pip-Boy 3000, a utility equipment. One of the coolest cards from the Fallout set by a long shot. It lets us card draw, it lets us buff our creatures, and it lets us untap some land so we can interact. Pre-war Formalware. It's a recursion piece of equipment. It also has its own abilities, giving +2/+2 and Vigilance, but it being able to pick a creature back off the graveyard and equip itself to it is really good for when you get board wiped, because you are going to get board wiped. You're running a mostly artifact deck, and Vandal Blast is a card that exists. Rapid Battery. Nice, quick, immediate threat to the board. It's a piece of equipment. It's also a creature. Shovel of Decapitation, another piece out of my modern deck. I love the Evil Dead Secret Lairs, and being able to throw this into another deck is really fun to me. It's Colossus Hammer, it gets +10/+10. It's an absolute house of a card. If you're running any equipment deck, there's no reason to ever not run Colossus Hammer, no matter what your theme is. It's really, really good. Sword of Fire and Ice, another card out of my modern deck. This was a sideboard card. It probably should not have been in my sideboard, but In Commander, it's fantastic. Pro red, pro blue, really all it needs to do, but also being able to incidentally pick off creatures and draw you cards is really good. Spear of Leonidas from the Assassin's Creed set, I like it. It being able to create creatures, give double strike, and also loot some cards is really good. Tech Spear, aka Shadow Spear, it gives trample, it gives lifelink, it removes indestructible, it removes hexproof. It is the best utility equipment, bar none. And that's it for the equipment category. Now there is other equipment in the deck, but that falls into other categories because it does more in other categories. It is equipment, but you want to kind of separate things out to make things clear as their role in the deck. So let's go into our protection category. And that starts with Blacksmith skill. Just targeted protection for your commander, for your equipment piece is really good. People don't expect it. You only have one white up. Well, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to Blacksmith skill. It's a great card. In the same vein, we have Giver of Runes. This also came from my Modern deck. Giver of Runes, there's probably other better cards in the deck, but it worked really well in Modern, so I don't see why it wouldn't work really well here in Commander. You're only really protecting one piece at a time in this Voltron-y kind of deck, so Giver of Runes is cool. Gotta get rid of the Giver before you can get rid of the Commander. Cole the Forge Master. This is actually a card that I tried in the Pioneer deck. There's an infinite combo using Cole and Lotus Ring and I think Fervent Champion. It's really cool. Here it's just to protect our commander, so when it gets blown up, we get to at least return the creature to our hands so we don't have to pay a commander tax. Lava Spur Boots, it's new Swiftfoot Boots, it's new Lightning Greaves. You want as many of these effects as you can in the equipment deck, especially when it only costs one. It lets you get it out early. It's a really cool card. Lightning Greaves, same deal, you know about it. It's a commander classic. You want to protect your commander. Lorn's Escape is just like Blacksmith skill. Yeah, again, people don't... Damn, my shoulder popped. It's just like Blacksmith skill. It does the work. People aren't going to expect it. You get to protect your commander. That's all I got to say on that one. Paladin Dance Steer Maverick is really cool. You can pop him to give your stuff indestructible. Silver Shroud Costume from the Fallout set. Yo, when I first saw this card, I was like, eh. And then I play with it, and I'm like... Sheesh! Another one of those combat-y trick cards like Blacksmith Skill and Lorn's Escape, but it also is an equipment that sticks on the board. Also, that can't be block clause can just win games on its own. As soon as you equip that to Rograth with anything else on him, you're starting to get in for real commander damage. Swiftfoot Boots, we know about it. Sword of Feast and Famine, protection black, protection green. I have a super cool signed one, along with the next card we're gonna look at, Sword of War and Peace, which is, again, a protection piece. It protects red and white. Sword of War and Peace, Sword of Feast and Famine, mostly here for the protection aspects. The extra effects they have, like untapping your lands and doing some extra damage, is fine, but they're really here for the protection. The only one we care about, as far as not specifically for protection, is Sword Fire and Ice, because it also draws your card. Untapping lands isn't such a big deal because our curve is really low, as you'll be able to see throughout the deck. All right, we've done equipment, we've done protection. Let's go over to our cost reducers. We have 10 of those. And let's start with Astor, Bearer of Blades. This one's pretty cool because it's card advantage, it's going to find us stuff, and it also makes our equipments equipped for 1, which is fantastic. If we don't have one of our free equips out, 1 ain't bad. Belon Wandering Knight is another backup to our commander effectively. It's also his cost reducer, but it allows you to attach all the equipment you have to Belon. So when our Rograth gets blown out, then we can just take all the things that are on him and just put it on Belon, and we have a new threat on board. Blacksmith's Talent's really cool. At level 1, it creates a sword, which is... It's a sword. It doesn't do much, but it's another free piece of equipment. And then once you get to level 2, you can start equipping things for free if you don't have any of the other free equips that are a little cheaper. This one's a good backup. And then at level 3, giving your creatures double strike and haste is awesome. Like, it's a good finisher, but that's not really what it's in here for. Brunor Battlehammer lets you equip the first equip for free. That's all it's really in here for. It's also a big threat on its own. 4 mana for a 5/3 ain't bad. Also buffs our equipped creatures, which is not insignificant a lot of the time, especially when you have like several creatures out with several different pieces of equipment that you're moving around for free with, like a Pierced Paladin or whatever. Codsworth Handy Helper. This card, I mean, if you're running an equipment deck in 2024, you should be playing Codsworth Handy Helper. I mean, you're probably in white, and this card just does all the things you want to do. It protects your commander, it ramps things, it lets you free attach things, not even equip, attach things, which is better. Forge Anew, really good card. It's recursion, it's free equips, it allows you to equip at instant speed. It's really wild, actually, how much this card does. When I saw this in Lord of the Rings, it was immediately slotted in my Modern deck, and I never had any regrets. I always ran 2. Inventory Management, Split Second. That keyword is so much stronger than people think it is. Split Second is crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna blow you up. Yeah, no you're not. I'm going to split second equip this Champion's Helm's my commander. I'm gonna do whatever. At instant speed, it's faster than speed, split second. It's literally the best. Kemba Car Enduring, it allows us to equip everything to Kemba. That's what it's mostly here for, but it can also create those CAD tokens to then take the equipment we have on board if we want to spread it out a little bit. It lets us go wide a little bit, even though it's not really what this deck's about. It's a nice backup plan. Nahiri the Lithomancer kind of is the same thing. It lets you create guys that can pick up your equipment, which is not bad. It also recurs pieces. We're not even going to worry about the ultimate because we're never going to get to it, but yeah, it kind of makes it like a sort of Caldra. Sigarda's the ultimate free equip spell. I love this card. It is one of my favorite cards. It is the reason I wanted to build an equipment decks. Honestly, more than the Swords of, more than Colossus Hammer. Sigarda's is just such a cool and fun, interesting design space. Free equips, being able to cast things at flash speed. This card just does everything you want to be doing in this kind of deck. So I've done our cost reducers. Let's jump into card draw. Starting with Akiri, Fearless Voyager. Whenever you attack player with one more equipped creatures, you draw a card. Simple as that. You can also unattach equipment from creatures to give creatures indestructible, so protecting our commander once again. A lot of these cards have dual purpose, and that's really nice. This is a very tight-knit deck with a lot of overlapping roles. Ash, Destined Survivor, aka Pure Steel Paladin. Pure Steel Paladin is one of the best cards in the modern versions deck, and it does work here. Every time we cast an equipment or equipment enters the battlefield under control, not even cast, we draw a card. So yeah, like free equipments are making off like Blacksmith's Talent or whatever else that just makes little equipments when they come in. That's still card draw for us. Ash does the work there. It also lets us equip everything for free. As soon as we have 3 artifacts on board, which you're gonna have because that's the whole nature of the deck, you can just start equipping things for free. Esper Sentinel card draw, we're in white. You run Esper Sentinel if you got it. If you don't, I mean, I don't tell you, your deck's a little worse for it, honestly, but Esper Sentinel is the card draw. You're in white. This is what you should be running. Keeper of the Accord is something that I've always slept on, but I think this card is pretty good. Just incidentally creating those tokens is fantastic. It's not really card draw with its fitting as this card draw category, it's card advantage, but being able to equalize your lands with your opponent, especially in a white-red deck, is very useful, and Keeper does that well. Mystic Forge, again, it's not technically card draw, it's impulsive draw, but you know, being able to just cast things off top of your library and fix your top of your library is really good. Also, just that information of being able to look on top is very useful. And the card draw boy, Shram. Whenever you cast an equipment, you draw a card. That's it. It's very simple, very readable.
Very demure, very mindful.
Need to pick one of these up serialized. If you have one, hit me up in the comments or the Discord. We're done with our card draw section. Now let's jump into our tutor section, and we'll start with Kellen the Fate-Blooded. This card is fantastic. It is literally just open the armory, but on a creature, so you get to run Open the Armory and Kellen, and that's fantastic. It also is a creature, so you can dump it out and throw equipment onto it. And it has double strike. A lot of our cards have dual roles, and this is one of the better dual roles in our deck. Moves of Victory is good. It lets us search our Soul Ring. It's a Soul Ring searcher. Open the Armory. Again, we just talked about this. Just being able to tutor whatever equipment you want to your hand is super powerful. This is as powerful as Demonic Tutor in this deck. I mean, it's not, but like it's close, right? Steel Shaper's Gift, exact same thing, except 1 mana cheaper. That's all I gotta say. Card's fantastic. Stoneforge Mystic does the exact same thing, except this one also lets us take our big expensive equipment and just dump them on the board for 2 mana on the following turn after playing it. Stoneforge Mystic is so good. Stone Hero Giant. Can you guess what this one does? It searches for equipments, but this one puts it right onto the battlefield, which is fantastic. It also is a big threat on its own. 5 mana for a 4/4. Vigilance is nothing to sneeze at. And then Urza Saga is our Colossus Hammer Finder, or any other 1-drop equipment or artifact for that matter, but it's our Colossus Hammer Finder. That's what it's here for, and it does a great job at it. We have a couple sections left. I got one weird card that might have should have went somewhere else, but I'm gonna mention it now. It's Champion of the Flame. This is my ult win con is what I called it. Just throw everything onto Champion of the Flame, and this card wins games for you. It has trample on its own, and then you can just throw everything else on it, like your Colossus Hammer, and still get in for damage. I love Champion of the Flame. Wouldn't run an equipment deck without it. In red. Next, we'll quickly go into our interaction category. So this has 7 cards in it, and it starts with Austere Command. It's a board wipe. We want some amount of board wipes in the deck. I might be running 1 more than people probably would recommend, but I like to have 3 board wipes or so in a deck. There is a lot of ward out there nowadays. Blasphemous Act, also a board wipe. Love Blasphemous Act. You pay it for 1 mana and you get to almost always wipe the entire board. Path to Exile, targeted removal is very useful. It's also exiles, which is nice. You don't want everything hitting the graveyard, and you know what Path to Exile is good for. It's a great card. Power Blast is a little bit of a fun card for me. You probably see me throw in other decks on the channel, and you're like, why are you even doing that? Well, I mean, it deals with blue in a way that's very specific, and blue is one of the harder colors for red and white to deal with, so Power Blast does make sense to me, and it has come in clutch quite a few times. Vandal Blast. We'd hate to get this turned around on us, but you should still run Vandal Blast. Vandal Blast deals with your opponents and not you. Overload, or it's targeted removal for 1 mana. And I've done that before. And our final piece of interaction is Wear Tear. You can destroy a target artifact, you can destroy a target enchantment, you could do both. You got choices. This card is super versatile and super good. And finally, to end out the interesting parts of the deck, let's look at our recursion. That starts with Goblin Welder. You get to pick an artifact from the graveyard, you get to pick an artifact from the board, and swap them. It's very useful, you can get it down early, and it can be a lifesaver late game. Then you have Mantle of the Ancients. Enchant your commander with Mantle of the Ancients, and then watch your opponents cry as all the work they did to blow up all your equipment gets undone immediately as you just get to attach it all to your commander at one time. It is fantastic. And Wake the Past is much the same. It's really expensive, so is Mantle of the Ancients, but when it works and when it's useful, it is the most useful. It can turn a game immediately around, and your opponents will have no way to deal with it most of the time. And the final section, before we quickly look at the lands, we've got our ramp. The usual suspects are here. We've got Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, Soul Ring, Springleaf Drum, Talisman of Conviction. We also have a piece of equipment in here in Paradise Mantle. It's free to cast, so we can get some triggers for casting equipment, and it also makes our creatures Birds of Paradise, Paradise Mantle. This card does the work. It doesn't seem like it does, just like Springleaf Drum, but it does. Trust me, being able to just tap down creatures for that little bit of extra mana when you need it.
Oh God, it's so good.
And finally, the lands. As per usual, I don't go over lands very much. I will call out specific ones that I think are worth bringing up. So Ancient Den, and in the same vein, Great Furnace. Artifact lands, they are artifacts. They can't towards your artifact count, which some cards do care about. Only reason we run them, they are more likely to be blown up than other lands, so be wary. Don't run these if you don't want to. But artifact count matters sometimes. And Iganjo, it's both interaction and a land, which is relevant. Don't sleep on these channel lands, especially Iganjo. I know this one gets slept on a lot because it's not Boseiju, it's not Otawara, but Iganjo is really good. And Inkmoth Nexus. This allows you to have very quick kills that your opponents will not see coming or are just not prepared for. Infect out of nowhere is always nice. Shout out to Craig Blanchett because I love the Infect, and you taught me this. But yes, that is our Arden and Rograk deck, mostly just a Rograk deck. Arden's there, and we do cast Arden quite a bit in this deck, but you really don't need to. A lot of time you'll have free equip set up already that costs less than Arden does, and that'll get you rolling much quicker than Arden. But it's nice to have that backup, and it's nice for the colors. And yeah, guys, I guess that'll about do it for my Arden and Rograk deck. I do honestly believe, I put this in the title, and I know it's a little hyperbolic, but I do honestly believe this is the best equipment deck you could play outside of literally EDH. I think this is the best version of this deck you can play by a lot. It works really well, it's very consistent. You saw a lot of overlapping strategies when we looked at our cards, and it just feels good to hit someone for 12 damage with your Colossus Hammer, and you're this and you're that, and it just, you slap them and they cry and they're like, hey, don't target me to start with. I'm like, bro, I'm just going around the table. I don't know, it's super fun. I love playing this deck. I've built several equipment decks in the past, and none of them have worked nearly as well, for Commander specifically. None of them have worked nearly as well as Arden and Rograk, and I don't know, man, I just really wanted to share this with y'all. Again, I'm working on another equipment deck right now that's in Jeskai colors that I'm working on in partnership with another YouTuber, and yeah, it's a really bad timing, but I've been working on this one for a minute, so I really wanted to share it with you guys. Anyway, I guess that's about it. I'm Courier6 of the Kaladesh Express, your #1 source for Universes Beyond and Commander decks. And oh yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. My mods always tell me that. I tell y'all to do that, or you're not gonna do it. Like and subscribe. Let's get to 5,000 subscribers by tomorrow, huh? But yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for your time, and have a fantastic day.